Shamaya, you did it.
STL Music.
Is that good? Welcome back to the show. So listen up, we back in the game. Sweet the lead, we got a plane. Motivated to the fullest, every single day we wake up, get in every way. Right from the 222 on the global inspiration. Talk this sports and top news, no hesitation. Sweet the league is back. We always coming back, that's a fact. Wanna tell them that STL Music, mama, we did it, where we at? Coach Jill in the house with the flow so tight. Every rock stats we unite. Yeah, the best show, Monday through Friday. If this ain't different, they lying. We got the energy. When I say sweep, you say the lead. Sweep the lead, sweep the lead, sweep the lead, sweep the lead. San Antonio, let's go. Sweep the lead. Sweep the lead. Sweep the lead. San Antonio.
Yeah, this for the family. Loyalty, respect, honor. You know what it is. STL Music. Let's get it. We the ones, never folded on ourselves, no bluffing. Legacy we building, man, this ain't up for discussion. They wanted us to quit, but we dug in deep. Motivated to the fullest, dreams ain't meant for sleep. On the grind 24/7, no time for rest. We making moves, calculated like a master chess.
Hey, it's Rain Fernandez, and you're watching Sweep the League. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and Facebook at Rain Fernandez, RAYNE Fernandez.
Hi, it's Sherilyn, and you're watching Sweep the League TV. Follow me on Instagram at official Sherilyn for more content.
Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweep the League Radio.
It is Taco Tuesday here on Sweep the League. Welcome to the big show. Rudy Campos Jr. going to be joined by Hall of Famer Derek Gervin, and the Love Boat Cruise man himself is back tonight. Coach Gio back from the cruise. We're going to see how that went for him. Got some stuff we got to get into. Last night we kind of swept the leagues pretty quick when it came to NFL and NCAA football. We're going to get Derek's takes. We're going to get Gio's takes on this past weekend of football. Great, exciting games. You know, Texas, obviously, like I mentioned last night, is the best team in the country, in my opinion. We're going to see if we can kind of crack Coach Gio a little bit when it comes to Georgia and Texas. And also, I've got to redo my apology to Coach Gio if you missed it last night. So we're going to bring on the boys right now. It's going to be Hall of Famer Derek Gervin, Coach Gio. Before we bring them on, just a reminder, guys, Sweep the League is coming to you in the mornings now. Not necessarily live, but this show will be broadcast tomorrow morning. This morning we broadcast Monday show, last night's show. It was broadcast this morning at 11 o'clock. It'll be right between 10:15, 10:30, or 11. You're going to see this episode of Sweep the League being broadcast. In case you missed it tonight, you can catch it in the morning. So another lot more things coming from Sweep the League. Just one of them right there. Let's bring on the guys here. First and foremost, Hall of Famer Derek Gervin. And was it Isaac from the Love Boat? Is that what we can call Gio? Is he just back from his cruise?
That's a pretty good name.
How was the cruise, man?
I loved it. I actually wanted to stay on the ship, but I had no more money, so I had to come back. But no, it was a great time. The food, I mean,
did you eat bad?
I actually ate pretty good. The buffet was fantastic on that cruise ship.
I've heard cruises are nice. Derek, have you ever been on a cruise?
No.
Yeah, see, I haven't either. I haven't done any cruises or anything.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. The Caribbean heat, man, got me all dark. I mean, I was burning up.
Really? Is that where you went, the Caribbean?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. See, before we go, I got to ask this because maybe Derek's been an international, obviously played overseas. Now, Caribbean, I mean, I don't know if it's international per se, but when you're on a cruise, do you have to get off at your docking point?
No, there's people who didn't get off at all, probably in
Really?
those week there. Probably people who've been there before. A lot of people go there to drink
Yeah.
and do all the kind of festivities that the cruise offer. But no, you don't have to get off the ship. For instance, if I was to go back to Cozumel again, I probably wouldn't get off the ship just because it's a nice island, but there wasn't much to do there. So
I got you. All right. I have a friend that's actually 2 friends right now that are on a cruise right now. So looks like they're kind of enjoying it. I'm kind of debating whether to go on a cruise. I'm not a fan of.
You should.
I don't know. I hear more horror stories about cruises than I do.
Well,
people like good stories. So
just like we talk about where you get drafted, it depends where you go and what ship you go on, Rudy.
Well, we definitely are. I don't know. What did you go? Carnival?
I went Celebrity Cruises.
Celebrity Cruises. That doesn't sound like a 5-star, but I will.
Well, they're the sister brand of Royal Caribbean, which is actually a pretty big brand. So
I got you. All right. You know what? I'm just glad you're back. You're back on American soil. You came back. I was a little teary-eyed while you've been gone, man. Me and Derek, we tried our best to hold up the ship for you. We accomplished it. I'm not saying we don't need you, but if you ever have extended vacation again, we felt like we could make it happen, man.
I am going to the Big Apple in December, but that's still several months away, and I'll still be on U.S. soil. So
that's far away. So, Derek, before we get into this football talk, because I got to get with you guys on football, I'm gonna reissue my statement from last night's show, and I want you here, Derek, because you got to hear this. I got a lot of flack after I made this statement last night from the people in the chat, and basically it was this: Rudy Campos Jr. first and foremost apologize to Coach Gio and say that Kyler Murray is the better quarterback over Daniel Jones in that draft class. So.
Music to my ears, Derek. Music to my ears. I've been ready to say that Daniel Jones is better than Kyler Murray. It's just mind-boggling. Sure, the Cardinals lost on Sunday. The Cardinals didn't lose, but I thought it was a good effort.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. That was a very hard apology to make right there for myself to Coach Gio. But after this weekend, I'm debating whether Bryce Young or Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback. I actually have Daniel Jones as the worst quarterback, as Bryce Young is still young. So, what do you got, Derek? Were you surprised by that?
That's after week 1. I mean, it's hard for me to argue, but to say that's bad. Daniel played pretty bad. The Giants in general played bad. So. I don't know how much of it was on him. I think he didn't play great, we know. But hell, if you look at the team, they scored 6 points. They just didn't play good football.
They didn't, but I think they're probably the better team than the Panthers. What I saw on Sunday, or what I saw just bits and pieces, because I really didn't spend time on that game, was a pretty good beatdown. I mean, it was. Take it back to the woodshed and 47 points in an opening game. I mean, you spent all offseason, Derek, putting in the time, right? The training, the practice, all that to show up to get blown out against a Saints team that, look, I think they're a good team, but Derek Carr out here looking like Peyton Manning.
Well, they were my best. They were my team of the week. The Saints were. And I'm only going to say
new coach, though.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Saints were the team of the week for me because they looked pretty. Even though it was a bad Panther team, I will say they looked a lot better than I gave them credit. Put it that way. I know it was a bad Panthers team, but they looked a lot better than I was giving them credit for. I know Derek got something to say. Derek, you got something?
No, I was just saying the Panthers just look bad, man. I mean, what's their identity? I mean, if you look at them early in the season, first game, but I mean, they were terrible on both sides of the ball. And so I know they have a new system and all that, but they're going to have to figure it out quickly because what they put on the field yesterday was totally unacceptable.
Yeah,
And
man, it's terrible.
ownership, I mean, they were really intent on drafting young a few years ago,
Big
and
mistake.
they have spent a lot of money on coaches. I mean, remember Matt Rule, who's now in Nebraska, who's starting to rebuild that program there. They get rid of him, and then who do they have after? Oh, they had the guy from the Colts.
Not Frank Reich, is
Yeah,
it?
yeah, Frank Wright, who is regarded as one of the better play callers in the league. They get rid of him, and then you hire, the coordinator from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season, who had a good run.
Yeah.
But man, the Carolina Panthers. I remember last year, Rudy, they were selling tickets for like $4. It might be 50 cents in one of these games because if I'm a Panthers fan, I have lived in the Carolina area before. Dude, for that fan base to see that first game, but look, it's week 1. It's no overreaction,
Yeah.
but man, that was a bad look for the Panthers.
It was very, very bad. But where my apology came in saying that Kyler Murray, and welcome Tim Gonzalez, appreciate you joining in. My apology came in for Daniel Jones being the worst quarterback compared to Kyler Murray. I will admit that. I'm waiting for the weeks to come on in. Derek and I are waiting for the weeks to come in soon here where we get the apology on Caleb Williams, where you said he was superstar and he's this and he's that. I mean, come on, dude. There's more quarterbacks that had more yards passing in the first quarter than he had the entire game.
Wasn't a great look for Caleb. I did watch a decent amount of that game. He missed some. Listen, that team could have blew out the Titans. There were throws that he missed. 2 touchdowns. A third touchdown was dropped in the red zone, Rudy, by Moore. He gets that touchdown, looks a little bit better.
But not expected to hit him. That's why.
Not a great debut for the Bears. They just couldn't get into rhythm. Just a lot of the protection, the overthrows, all that stuff. Was it nerves? Who knows? But they got the win, though, Rudy.
Well, no. The Bears defense got the win.
Hey, he was part of that win. The Bears defense looked pretty good. Now, the Titans, Rudy, I think we can agree there's not much going on over there in Tennessee. But the Bears, they won. They got a big game coming up.
Philadelphia,
and then they have the Colts next weekend or the following week in Indianapolis. But Caleb just missed some easy throws, and I know he can make. The difference is Daniel Jones, he's done. But Caleb, watching that game, the opportunities they had to really blow up that game, and it just didn't work out. But it's the first week. You know who I was actually impressed by, though? Jaden Daniels with the Commanders. I know they got blown out against the Bucs, but I thought he played well. He ran around, made some good throws. They're building something there in Washington. But Caleb, you didn't make me look good, but hey, at least you got the win, which is all that matters. And you know who else is making me look bad too? Colorado. That's another damn team that's making me look terrible right now.
Hold off on Colorado. We're going to get to the NCAA talk because Derek's got a lot to say about Colorado, I'm sure, too. Derek, do you think we're going to get our apology from Gio when it comes to Caleb?
Well, I don't think so yet because it's only one game, and he did overthrow some guys. So he showed some bright spots, but of course he struggled in the first game. But the other guys were there to hold down the fort for him, and the Bears are 1-0.
Yeah, the Bears defense is 1-0. The offense is probably still stuck in preseason or
wait. You know whose offense also stuck in limbo? And the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know what that was, Rudy. That was bad. And Drake London, my brother, what happened to you, man? Because I couldn't see this guy getting open.
Well, the only thing open in Atlanta this past weekend was the Chick-fil-A in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Because outside of that, hardly anybody was there. Drake London wasn't even open there. It's just bad, man.
I'll say this about the Falcons. It was a tough matchup.
Don't give me that.
Steelers defense played very well. I thought the Falcons, again, out of rhythm like the Bears, just couldn't get things going. Kurt didn't look comfortable, Rudy. We're going to see the next – because, Rudy, if Kirk Cousins starts off, I mean terrible. I mean absolutely, terrible. Do they go to panic sometime this year? if this continues to really spiral, and I don't know, they're 1-7, 1-8, or some crazy, record like that, do you see them saying, "Hey, you know what?
Why you got to put me on the spot, man?
We got to at least try, right, Derek? I mean, you got
to."
Don't you think with Kirk coming back, just being off because of the injury, don't you think it's going to take him and the team to kind of a minute to gel? Because they really had. I mean, they didn't play badly.
No,
I see they, both. Yeah. So I'm saying if you just give him a chance to gel, I like to factor in sometime when guys have been out, and then you come back under the bright lights again. I have to see a little more work before I can write him off. But overall as a team, they still played pretty good defense overall if you really look at it. So they were in the ball game. But you gotta give Kurt a chance first, I think, before they even consider looking at Michael Penix.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I'm talking a little bit towards, maybe the middle towards the end. But no, I agree.
7 game.
I think he'll be fine. But it was, just kind of get back into the rhythm of things, and he didn't look like himself. I know he can play better. I mean, when Kurt's on fire, hey, he's on fire. When he's bad, Kurt, it's really bad.
Gio, couple of those throws though, man. I mean, come on. I think what was the last one that you just know football 101. The last pass that he made, the first one they tipped it. And he was fortunate to still get it to the receiver. But the last two, and the last one was just horrible, man. I mean, come on. You with the game basically on the line. You certain plays you just can't make when you're a veteran that's been playing that long. And so I'm gonna try to contribute it somewhat to him. Being out because of the injury, man, but the last 1 or 2 throws absolutely ridiculous, man, for a professional football quarterback.
I'm expecting them to be 0-3, and because
they're playing this week already.
They've got Philly this week, then they got Kansas City. I'm expecting.
Oh boy!
So the Penix talk is this. I say Kirk needs to be no worse than 2-3 for the first 5, because after that it's New Orleans and Tampa Bay, both divisional games. So if they start off 0-5, you almost have to put Penix in there. But then it goes back to, well, you paid Kurt all this money, so you've got to play him. You can't have, that kind of money just lounging around on the bench.
I just don't understand paying the amount
Do
they
you
go
trade
get
him? Are the Giants desperate to take on Kirk Cousins?
No, they got their own issue with Jones. I'm assuming Jones is done after this season.
He's done after this game. There's
Brian
no more
Daboll's
season.
Brian Daboll's faces today. They show Brian Daboll's face when they ask him, "Have you considered another club?" He's like, "No." Like, you just see it in his face. Like, this is terrible. He threw a pick 6 on a screen. Whenever I see him, I also see kind of like Eli Manning's face, because he always has like that dumbfounded kind of face. And the Giant fans, which I have some on my Facebook, was very excited about this first game. But Sam Darnold played well, Rudy. And when we talked about him during the offseason, or actually when this kid got hurt, but I think Sam Darnold played pretty well, and against the defense that does have athletes. They did trade for Burns. They got that, but that is it Thibodeau or the other defensive end they have there. So they got players.
It's the Giants. I can't believe we're spending a lot of time on Vikings and Giants.
Wait a minute, Rudy.
Daniel Jones.
Let's talk real quick about this other team that plays in New Jersey. Your Jets pick.
It's one game. Don't give me the BS. It's one game.
I'm just saying, Aaron, I don't know yet. We'll see.
It's one game.
No, it's one game against a team that was in the Super Bowl, but I don't know.
I could say the same thing about your Rams.
Hey, listen, with those injuries, the Rams still had a chance to actually win the game. Our defense was kind of gasped at the end there, and they couldn't they couldn't get to the running backs. But the Rams, I thought Cooper Kupp looked great. He looked like his old self.
Well,
he had 10?
Puka Nacua went out with injury.
10 catches. Puka went out. This might be the best offensive line we play all year. Their defense was, I mean, it was a loud place, but the Rams, I thought, showed up well in that second half. Their defense only gave up 3 points up until obviously the overtime, which was a touchdown. But the Rams, if they can't fix this offensive line with too many injuries, it's going to be hard for them to win games. Their defense will keep them in it, but Stafford did not play well too. The interception was tough in the red zone, but it's just one game, like you said, Rudy.
There's no shame in losing to Derek and I Super Bowl pick at all. There's no shame in losing to the Super Bowl champion Detroit Lions. It's about to happen, so no shame in that. Derek, your assessment of NFL Week 1. Were there any surprises you saw there? Was there any? Obviously, the biggest surprise for everybody was New England beating Cincinnati, which one of our listeners, Joel Cologne, basically called it, says, don't be surprised if it happens. I just think no T. Higgins, Joe Burrow coming off of injury as well. Jamar Chase, not knowing if he's going to play in game 1 and week 1. There's just so much uncertainty. It was basically setting up for Cincinnati to be on the upset alert this week. But your takeaways from NFL Week 1, what was surprises for you? So was there a team out there that just caught your eye? What were your takeaways from Week 1?
Well, I thought it was a really good week. I mean, I'm so glad NFL is back. And it was exciting. When you got games that's going down to the wire, even like Gio brought up the Cardinals game, they were pretty much dominating that game if you really look at it most of the game. And then, of course, we got Mr. Josh Allen stepped up, and they needed him badly. And then they were fortunate to get the lead and take over the game. But so there were some good games. The Colts, Texans. I know the Colts tried to make a run at the end. They cut it down to 2 points. But to see C.J. Stroud come out and look like a leader first game of the season. It's things like that was exciting to me. The Chiefs over the Ravens again. Last year, the playoff 17-10. And then this year, 27-20. Same result. So we still get that question about Lamar. Is Lamar the James Harden of the NFL? So we got that. So it's been exciting to see. I thought it was a good weekend overall.
Annie Agar basically said something that a lot of people were thinking. We're finally going to get a Lamar in the Super Bowl this year. May not be Lamar Jackson, but we're getting Kendrick Lamar in a Super Bowl, so we can finally get Lamar into a Super Bowl, no doubt about it. But yeah, the biggest questions that I came away with, or the biggest surprise to me was, I liked the balance of New Orleans this past week. Again, I know it was against the Panthers, but I did like the balance I saw from New Orleans because you've got great games out of everybody on the Saints, defense and offense, but you didn't have a Chris Olave sighting. So to me, that's like, okay, you work in Chris Olave a little bit more. This Saints team has the potential to put up a good amount of points. They're not going to put up 47, but they have the potential to average right around that 24, maybe 27 points a game if they continue with the explosiveness. The Cardinals looked pretty damn good. I didn't expect them to look that good. I don't know if it was Buffalo looking bad. The Texans, they looked every bit of contenders that I thought they would. A little bit of rust on there. You saw the Colts making a comeback towards the end, like I said. I mean, the Colts, I still like them very, very much. I wasn't really impressed with the Dolphins. Of course, the Falcons, I'm just on the terrible bandwagon. One team I circled a lot was, and this was a team that one of us on the panel said was going to suck this year. But the Dallas Cowboys.
I didn't say suck. I just said they wouldn't make the
playoffs. You said 7 wins, bro. We got tape. You said 7 wins.
I mean, it's only week 1. I mean,
it is.
Dallas can also be Dallas.
They can be Dallas, but one of the better defenses in the league is with Cleveland. We can't argue with that fact. Last year, Cleveland was a really good defense. Again, Myles Garrett, they've got a defense there. We can't fault Cleveland on the offensive side. I mean, Deshaun Watson is not Houston Deshaun Watson, but the Cowboys, the boys, they looked balanced. They looked good. They looked in sync. I still think they need another receiver. They got to get something somewhere to help out with CD and Brandon Cooks. But I think the Cowboys are, I think they're in sync. Zeke Elliott, I'm not putting much into Zeke Elliott at all, but I mean, you saw some glimpses of old Zeke. I'm not saying I'm going to overhype him, but the Cowboys looked a lot better than I expected him to do. And, one other guy that I will mention is Jordan Love, that injury. I mean, we don't know if he's going to be ready for next week. I mean, there's a possibility he plays week 2, but if he sits out a good amount of games, that's going to really mix up a lot when it comes to the NFC North, because now you could see the Bears at number 2 if Jordan Love sits out. Could the Vikings potentially, get some wins while Jordan Love is out if he is out? How significant is that Jordan Love injury for NFC contenders, for the Packers?
That's huge. Go ahead, Gio, but that's huge.
No, yeah, that's a big blow. I mean, the Eagles. One thing about them, not necessarily surprised, but I did mention. Look, the coach got to balance out the personalities, find a way. I thought Saquon had a fantastic debut. Rudy played very well.
Yeah, he did.
He was catching, he was running. If he's playing like that the whole year, that's going to be a tough team to beat. I thought Cowboys played well. I'm not going to lie here. I thought Cleveland. I watched the game, and I don't know what is up with Deshaun Watson, but he's not right. He doesn't physically look right, and mentally he doesn't look there. Some of those passes he was throwing, Derek, it looked like he just couldn't throw it. It just looked flat. I mean, he's running around, just doesn't look in sync. And I know it's the first week, but dude, they're paying you how much money? And last season I thought was also weird. He missed a few games. We didn't know what it was about. He may have been hurt. It was mental issues, whatever the case may be. Dude, you got to perform, and that was just a terrible. And I got a good defense by Dallas. They also couldn't run the ball. Chubb's still out. So Dallas did look good. Very impressive. I'm worried about the Bengals because it just they look flat. And I'm gonna say this now: their coach, I think he's on the hot seat. If they don't make the playoffs, if they have a dismal another year like this, like they did last year, and I get that Joe was hurt, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get rid of. Now, this has been an organization who kept Marvin Lewis for like 30 years, so I guess it's possible Taylor can keep his job. But how about Joe Mixon, Rudy? I mean, geez, the man was on a mission. Not only him, shout out to J.K. Dobbins, Rudy. The last few years, horrific injuries. And, man, he had a $135 on the ground. He's running. He's bouncing off players. J.K. Dobbins, I'm not going to say anything, but, man, he looked phenomenal in his debut. But it's the first week, guys, so, obviously there's penalties. People are getting used to the new kickoff rules. We saw J.D. Dallas return one for a touchdown for the Cardinals, I believe. So this is that first week. But you know who didn't have any blunders was the Georgia Bulldogs, Rudy. Stop. And I wasn't here for that Clemson. But Derek, I received a text message from Rudy, and you know what he said? The Bulldogs are on upset alert. How did that turn out, Rudy?
Well, we're going to get into college football here in a little bit. There's no reason to talk college football right now.
I just want to get off my chest because.
Oh, I know. You've been dying to get a lot of stuff off your chest. That's why you logged in here quick. You were like, I'm not going to miss this one. I'm not going to be late to this show because I'm definitely logging in early.
Hey, Rudy, Clemson had a good response, though.
They sure did. They did. They sure as hell did. And, but Clemson is still a team that's not – I mean, it's not going anywhere, man. I'm like I said, I'm leaning a lot towards what Derek was saying. Yeah, Miami's probably the better team in the ACC. And I think if they get one team in, which they will, it's probably going to be Miami. There's no doubt about that.
Hey, watch out for Syracuse. They had a big win against Georgia Tech. That's a team with their quarterback. Is he the quarterback from Ohio State last season, Rudy? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
he's been nickel and diming people. Could this be a surprise team? We really didn't talk much about them. We knew they had some stuff coming in, but
yes, I mentioned Syracuse in our ACC preview. I did say I didn't expect them to do a lot because I was worried about their defense, which their defense is struggling. I ain't gonna lie. But you have McCord who's putting up numbers. What do you have? 4 touchdowns this past weekend. I mean, Kyle McCord is definitely balling. But
we talked about that, Rudy, that these teams are going to be beating each other. And how about this, Rudy? How about Cal going on the road at Auburn? On the road at Auburn and beating them, an ACC school. I caught some of that game. Cal looked hungry. They looked determined. And Auburn just did not look very good on Saturday.
No, they didn't. And, I'm kind of happy because, finally Georgia's going to be able to play somebody instead of Tennessee Tech. They're going to be able to beat up on somebody else this week, which is Kentucky, which is not any better than Tennessee Tech, but it's at least you've heard of Kentucky, before.
I will be at that. I'll be at that game in Lexington, Rudy. So I will make the drive from Indiana to Kentucky to watch the Dogs play up close and personal, because it seems like everybody's trying to sell their tickets because no one's going to go to the game.
Well, yeah, go to the game. Do a little live show there.
I watched some of that South Carolina-Kentucky game, and South Carolina put a whooping on Kentucky, and I think Georgia's probably going to do the same on Saturday. But you never know.
They should. They should give them a nice Texas State whooping like they did over UTSA.
Oh, already.
Oh, here we go.
Not to bring up something else. But when I saw that score, and I said, wait a minute, isn't that Rudy's team? And we did talk about Texas State, Rudy. They
could be the 12th team in.
They could be that. If they're playing like that the whole year, what they did to UTSA was very impressive.
Yeah, I know. I had mentioned the day before, I said, something in my stomach tells me that Texas State's going to win. I just didn't think it was going to be that kind of win. Like, there's no doubt about that. Derek, that UTSA game, you're an alumnus from UTSA. So how did that feel with Texas State?
It wasn't a good feeling, but I credit Texas State more than I take some negative away from UTSA. I think the better team, they were just clearly the better team. I don't know what type of team UTSA is going to have as the season goes on, but I still think they're a team for sure that will be a bold team. But, man, it was tough. But I got to give credit to Texas State because they look like they could be a good team against most teams in the country.
Well, Rudy, it's interesting. The week before that, I think they played Lamar. It was a kind of a close game. And then for whatever reason, they see UTSA. Maybe it's because it's in the state of Texas. But, man, it was just getting after them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what we got going on next weekend, right? Oh, my goodness.
Derek,
what we play? We the Longhorns.
Good luck, Derek. Georgia will be there in a few weeks. So that's going to be a fun time.
So Georgia had what? Probably one loss. Not Georgia. Texas had probably one loss going in.
I don't know.
After UTSA.
Hey, Texas looked good. Texas looked good. I saw some of that game against Michigan, whatever the heck is left of Michigan. Texas played well. They played physical. I think not to give away too much, but that Georgia-Texas game, I think it's going to come down to potentially who has the ball last and, penalties and which team is going to be more physical. I know Georgia's going to come in ready to go, but Texas, they took care of business against Michigan. Really no issues there.
Texas is looking good. When we come back from commercial break, we're getting into NCAA football talk. We got lots to talk about. Stuff that I mentioned yesterday was, of course, I had UTSA as my 12th team in the college football playoffs. I figured the only loss they would need to get is Texas. But after losing to Texas State, they're pretty much out. I've got it down to 2 teams right now. Liberty went down, I think, to New Mexico this past weekend. So kind of moving Liberty out. State's another team to watch out for. But ultimately, when it's said and done, looking at the records, if Texas State beats Arizona State this coming Thursday, they could potentially go undefeated on the year, which have to give them major consideration because, again, Memphis still has to play UTSA. Might have a better Roadrunner squad by the time they play them. Memphis is playing Florida State this weekend. Memphis still has to play a Navy team. That's never, it's never easy with any of the Armed Force teams. So Memphis still has a pretty rough schedule ahead of them. Of the 2 or 3 teams, I'm going to throw Boise State in there. I still like Texas State, especially if they beat Arizona State pretty convincingly. I think Texas State should get the nod to get that final spot if they go undefeated. So we're going to get into that kind of talk as well. Also, we're going to get into more talk. The Longhorn Nation, you looked fantastic against Michigan. It was pretty much over, I think, from the beginning. There was no doubt about that. That was the statement win that Sark and the Horns needed going into the rest of the season. How's the SEC looking? The Miami Hurricanes, Derek's team. There's no stopping them from what I can tell. I'm convinced that Derek is completely correct when it came to the Miami Hurricanes, as Florida State is just terrible.
Rudy, one thing I want to add about a team that we talked about in the Big Ten, Oregon, they have not looked particularly great. I mean, they beat Boise State. Rudy, I told you about Boise State.
Yeah.
That team had an opportunity, and then a week before, they beat Idaho only by 10 points.
Oregon's terrible this year.
I don't know, but you know who's not going to be terrible? Shout out to my Indiana Hoosiers, who scored 77 points. I'm telling you right now, Rudy, Indiana, I think they're going to make a bowl game, and they're going to beat someone. I'm not saying they're going to beat Michigan, Derek. I'm not saying that.
They could.
But
hey, we're not that great this year. At least not. We didn't. I think we're going to struggle all year. I didn't have Michigan in my playoff team.
No, I don't think none of us did.
Team.
Yeah,
I can't see them being top 25 at the end of the day.
No, you know what? While we go to commercial break, I'm going to try to figure out one thing. How many teams does Gio cheer for in the college world? I mean, you got Duke, you got Indiana now, you got Georgia.
Wait.
I mean,
the number one team is Georgia. We all know this, right? College basketball is Duke. And then as Indiana University, I live in this state. I live an hour from Bloomington. So, hey, you know what? I'm cheering, just like you, Rudy. You live in San Antonio, right? So you're cheering for UTSA, but you're a Tar Heel fan.
I'm a Tar Heel fan first. I go and support UTSA. I'm not diehard. I don't cheer for them.
Rudy, I'm not a diehard Heat fan.
You just said my Indiana Hoosiers are doing this, and I don't go and
Rudy,
say my Roadrunner. I don't say none of that stuff.
Well, I mean, look, Georgia's the number one. That's the number one team.
Who's number one for you, Georgia or Duke? You got to make it quick.
It's Georgia.
Georgia. Okay, so Duke is second. I will allow that. Knock, pound on the gravel. I will allow that.
But all I'm saying is Indiana's they're gonna upset somebody. Trust me, they're gonna upset one of these teams they play this year, and they're the favorite next week at UCLA, which I'm surprised.
We're gonna get into more NCAA football talk. It's Hall of Famer Derek Gervin. He's going to explain to us everything from the college football world, because Derek's hitting it on the nose more than Gio and I. A lot of our top 12 teams are bouncing left and right. So Derek's got more of that on here, but we're coming back. Like I said, I'm going to try to figure out how many teams Gio actually likes on this commercial break. Hall of Famer Derek Gervin, Coach Gio, back from the Love Boat. Rudy Campos Jr. will be back.
Are you looking for a contracting company that gets the job done right the first time? Look no further than MCS General Contracting. MCS specializes in top quality concrete work, including patios, driveways, foundations, and swimming pools. The team of experts are dedicated to delivering exceptional results and unparalleled customer satisfaction. At MCS General Contracting, they're not just hardworking, they're local. Based in San Antonio, they are committed to building relationships and trust within the community. That's why MCS guarantees your satisfaction. They pride themselves on getting the job done right the first time, every time. So why wait? Contract MCS General Contracting today to schedule your project and experience the difference for yourself. MCS General Contracting. Building a better San Antonio, one project at a time. Proud sponsors of Sweep the League.
Yeah, this for the family. Loyalty, respect, honor. You know what it is. STL music. Let's get it. We the ones, never folded on ourselves, no bluffing. Legacy we building, man, this ain't up for discussion. They wanted us to quit, but we dug in deep. Motivated to the fullest, dreams ain't meant for sleep. On the grind 24/7, no time for rest. We making moves, calculated like a master check.
All right, welcome back to Sweep the League. Hall of Famer Derek Gervin, Coach Gio is back. Rudy Campos Jr., Family, the album, the collaboration between SOTV and STL Music is getting released October 1st. Be on the lookout for it. Download it wherever you can download music. It's going to be all over the place. It's the album, the first album to come out. It's called Family. I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy it. I've already previewed it. I'm going to send these guys the links too so they can preview it as well. So again, shout out to SOTV, STL Music. Our first album is dropping October 1st. This segment is brought to you by MCS General Contracting, the best contractors in the business. Give Chris Leha, the boys, a call. It's weird. We were at 400 subscribers. Now we're at 396. We lost a couple. I think YouTube saw that some of these people were fake or bots or whatever. But got a promise here. If we get to 500 subscribers, MCS General Contracting is going to be giving away something. Not only that, they are a proud sponsor of Sweep the League, but we're going to combine that with MCS General Contracting, and we're going to be giving away something as well. We do have an NBA 2K giveaway that we will be announcing very, very soon. But also, we're going to probably do a little cold, hard cash for that 500th subscribe list that comes out. If you're on the subscribe list, you're going to probably get some cold, hard cash from us. You're also going to get a gift from MCS General Contracting, all sponsors of Sweep the League. So, NCAA football. We're seeing, I'm just going to throw it out there, Gio. I know you won't like it, but we saw Texas jump Ohio State. Now they're number 2 in the rankings. Oregon does not need to be in the top 10. I was saying that last night. They're probably the 12th best team in the league. I've got Utah ahead of them. Let me get the rankings first real quick because I was looking at it yesterday. But Oregon at 9. I definitely put Miami, USC, and Utah ahead of Oregon. I can do that all day. But when it comes to Texas and Georgia, I know we can easily say that you have to keep Georgia at 1. But if you look at both games, and again, no knock on anybody, not a knock on Texas, no knock on the Bulldogs. And this goes for both you and Derek. Can we legitimately say that Texas is the better team right now between Georgia and Texas? I fully said last night, I have Texas 1, Georgia 2. Just by what I've seen in the first 2 games, I feel Texas is the better team right now. So my argument to you is I've got Texas 1, Georgia 2. Do you guys see it that way? Do you like it the way it's ranked now? And again, take out all the bias stuff. I know you're a huge Georgia fan, and I'd like you just to call it as it is. But from the first 2 games, you've got Georgia beating Clemson. The same way pretty much Texas beat Michigan. So it's kind of a wash. Look at the other games. Texas dismantled Colorado State. Same thing with Georgia. But who's looked better? I think personally Texas has looked better on both sides of the ball. Just a bit more dominant than what I've seen from Georgia. That's just my opinion on that.
Go ahead, Derek.
I think Texas is the best team in the country right now. I know it's kind of like you put the 3 teams in a hat. Texas, you got Ohio State, and you got Georgia. So you put those 3 teams, and then it's everybody else. In my eyes, at least right now, you might be able to throw Miami. Miami is headed that direction, maybe. Ole Miss is a good team, but man, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year, and to see these teams that come out right now, and I think Georgia is a really, really good team. But I look at the Longhorns. I don't think Michigan is necessarily played bad, I just think they were kind of in over their heads, and I think Texas has weapons at every position. You look at defensively, they're a very good team, and you saw them kind of tighten the screws as the game went on. But I like Texas, and for me, I think we talked about national champion. I think right now they look like, without question, one of the better teams in the country.
Yeah, look, I think when you put those three teams in there, if someone was to say Texas was better, Ohio State, listen, I'm not going to go in and argue. I will say Texas, when you compare Texas win, they jumped out pretty early. It took Georgia in that second half to kind of get things going. Though Georgia's defense was their defense looked really good even in that first half. Georgia's offense took some time to get things going, but Clemson had athletes on defense. It was a pretty good defense. Michigan, it's kind of hard to judge, right? What team is better, Michigan or Clemson? We saw Clemson put up over 60 points last week.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Georgia just a slight edge here and just putting the biases all away. But the beauty of this conversation, fellas, is that just in a few weeks,
it's going to be answered.
Plays Texas. It's on the road. It's no, neutral site. Georgia has to go to Austin. That's going to be a tough game. Will I be surprised Georgia lose? No, I actually won't be, because Texas is that good. And what they did to Michigan, especially that first half, and Michigan couldn't really do much. It was just Texas imposing their will. Michigan got some other things they also got to worry about as well with the coach stuff. But right now, I'm going to give Georgia the slight edge simply because I think Carson Beck in that win didn't even play particularly well at all, and they still won by that large of a margin. And Georgia at times could take a little bit to get going. We'll see what they do this weekend against Kentucky. But right now, to me, it's neck and neck, and will not be surprised if Texas beats them in a few weeks, because this whole kind of expanded playoffs now it's kind of a war of attrition, right? Who's the healthiest, Derek, at that time of the year?
Right.
Because if Texas runs the show, but the last two games they get beat up, and then what happens if Texas plays a team like, I don't know, Kansas, who might be red hot coming into that season? This is the beauty of a 12-team playoffs. It's going to be kind of like March Madness, Rudy. It's going to be hectic. You're probably going to get an upset or two in those playoffs. But right now, I think it's Georgia's slight edge, but Texas is right. I mean, they're literally just right there.
Yeah, and that's what I would say. I wouldn't argue the fact if you had Georgia 1, Texas 2. I won't argue the fact if you have Texas 1, Georgia 2. So I wouldn't argue that. I consider just Texas the better team right now, but it could all change in a couple of weeks. I mean, you could see Texas struggle against UTSA, Georgia just blow out Kentucky, and then it's like, okay, well, Georgia's the better team. It's going to change from week to week until they play each other. But I'm going to make a bold statement here. I'm going to make a controversial statement here. So let's see if you guys agree or disagree with it. But Alabama's a fraud right now, in my opinion. They're number 4 in the country. But from what I've seen in the first 2 weeks, that is a fraud at number 4. I'm just throwing it out there. I have no idea if you guys agree with that at all.
Well, listen, that USF, I mean, it was a pretty close game in that first. It wasn't to the fourth quarter until Alabama was ready to blow that game. Even last season, Rudy, USF played Alabama tough.
Yeah.
So Alabama, listen, you still got the quarterback. As long as you got that individual there, they did run for about 140 yards, but then again, hey, it's USF. I mean, Rudy, they're going to beat Auburn because it's just what we saw last weekend. I think Alabama could be a sleeping giant, but right now I would agree, probably slightly overrated from what I saw against USF, but that's a program that has the talent, they have the players, and if they get hot, that could be a team that kind of ruins it for the SEC. But I think right now Alabama's kind of sleeping there. They're beating the teams, but I wouldn't count them out. And yes, St. Nick isn't there, right, Derek? He's retired. He's working on College game day. but they got athletes there. They got players, and if they get hot, Alabama could be a team that, who knows, could run the show at the end and host the trophy.
Well, there's no reason why Bama should be ranked higher than Ole Miss, Missouri, or even Tennessee right now, Gio. Alabama in the top 5. That's honestly, I'm going to call it a spade as way. Alabama in the top 5 is like people convincing me that Daniel Jones is a top 15 quarterback. That's exactly what it is.
Well, Ole Miss is a team we talked about earlier. I had them in the playoffs.
You did. And they were the team that I said had it. I could see them in there.
76, right? To score 76, 52. They're like their schedule is a very light schedule compared to these other teams. Well, they do got to play Oklahoma.
Yeah, they do. And, Derek, Miami. Now, I to Tim's point, Miami said that Texas and Miami are the 2 best teams right now. I've seen a lot of people say Miami is a top 5 worthy team right now in the NCAA. I've seen it being posted. I've seen a lot of people writing about it. I've done a little more research, and I will say this much about Miami. They're at number 10. I could easily have them in the top 7, top 6 probably. But you called the Miami Hurricanes probably being the best team in the ACC. There's really no doubt that they're going to be stopped. I mean, you're talking Cam Ward is playing ridiculous right now. The entire Miami Hurricanes, the U is back, is what I'm basically saying.
I don't know. Listen,
as far as ACC goes, I'm not saying they're going to win national championship.
It's funny because I lived in Florida, have a lot of friends saying the U's back and this and that. Be careful before you start patting yourself on the back. You know this, Derek. Start patting yourself too much. Listen, they got to go to Cal. And look, I know Cal isn't a world beater. They did beat Auburn. They still have to go to Georgia Tech, Syracuse. They got some tough games on their schedule. Can they ride the ship? I think they will, but I've heard the U's back so many times. But you know who's not back? Virginia Tech.
Was it Tim saying that was the team to beat? I remember Tim saying that.
Tim, and yeah, I was with you, but man, as funny as it sounds, I talked about Vanderbilt guys, and look, we saw Vanderbilt beat Virginia Tech.
Yeah, he did. But going back to Derek with Miami, they're gonna be there at the end. I feel like they are. I mean, if you look at their schedule, Derek, it's Ball State, South Florida, who did give Alabama, all they could handle. But again, I think Miami's way better than South Florida. Virginia Tech, Cal, Louisville. They have Louisville, then they have Florida State back to back. So potentially, you're talking about Miami maybe having two games where it's a struggle. They still got to go to Syracuse at the end of the season. They still got to play at Georgia Tech. So there's some tough games in there. But when it's all said and done, Miami should be that team at the end for the ACC.
That Florida State game is kind of makes me nervous because I hope people don't just start writing Florida State off because they got off to a rough start. That's the type of team I still expect to win a good number of games. And so I'm not going to go to sleep on them. Miami's going to have to keep that foot on the gas pedal. And right now they're off to a good start, but I still have some questions. If you look at them defensively, they're a team that I know that has a kind of high octane offense, but defense is still to be determined. So I think they got a good team, but you got some other ones, like you said, Ole Miss. I think both of those teams are better than Alabama at this point. So we'll see what happens. But they're going to the more notoriety you get, the more you got to make sure you show up every Saturday. And Miami might run into something like that. But then, of course, they got off to a great start.
Well, you know who didn't show up? The Notre Dame. That's the team that didn't show up, Derek.
Oh, man. No, don't even listen. What did I say about it? But, them, it's Notre Dame and it's Penn State that we talked on here. You never know what's going to happen every year. It's Notre Dame and it's Penn State Nittany Lions. I never trust those two teams going into a game, or no matter what level of team they're playing. And to see them come out and start put a stinker like that on the field, man, number 5 rated team in the country going into the game, and that's the best product they could put out on the field that day. That's a shame.
Penn State was in a war against Bowling Green.
Yeah.
And that just shows you, Rudy, that you got to show up to these games. You got to be prepared. Some of these teams don't care about the name on your helmet or the name on your back. You got to be prepared. And Penn State, I think they've been sure they beat West Virginia on the road, but to not show up against Bowling Green that first half and seeing kind of shaky there. And Notre Dame, Rudy, this program, I think it would do them best to be in a conference, Derek. I think it's time for them to be in a conference. Going in your own schools and teams and all this stuff is great. But just imagine Notre Dame in the Big Ten, Derek. Actual brand. Yes, they have a huge brand, but I think it's time for them to be in a conference. I think it's time.
Gio, when I played at UTSA, we talking 1984-85. We were the second best independent team in the country. And what's the team we were behind? Notre Dame. So we talking all these years. I don't understand it, man. Maybe they've never really explained to us why they're not in the conference. And I'm with you 100%. I think it makes it interesting. It makes college football more interesting to have a team like that in a conference and see how they fare then, instead of just basically picking the teams they want to play. I want to see them have to play certain teams. Yeah, they got, without a doubt.
They have the money. They have their own channel, Rudy. Basically, their games get broadcast on NBC. No one else, I believe, gets those games on those primetime, especially. And it's just, they recruit well, Rudy, but historically we realize they're always a step below. And yes, they have the brand, they have all that stuff that comes with Notre Dame. But I think it's time. Basketball, they're in the ACC, right, Rudy, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, they're in the ACC in basketball.
So football, it's time. And man, it's just, they always, I don't know, they're just never good enough to be that team. And they haven't won in quite some time.
So I understand it. You know, Notre Dame wants to be independent, and then isn't there some kind of thing where they win 7 games, they get, you know, national championship, like they get notice basically, I guess is what it is. They only have to like 7.
They think games. They're more famous than what they are, Rudy. I don't care a lick about Notre Dame football. I really don't.
I mean, Notre Dame hasn't been. When was the last time they were relevant? I mean, Manti Te'o brought in relevancy because of what happened with him. I mean, then before
they
that,
went to the championship game, Rudy, and Alabama just destroyed them.
Their best years were what? Joe Montana, maybe Rocket Ismail. I mean,
go back to the Lou Holtz days.
I got to go back when I was in middle school when Notre Dame was actually like, you know, big time notoriety type stuff, man. So, yeah.
Hey, Rudy,
what's up, bud?
Let me ask you seriously. Gio made a good point. Don't you think if Notre Dame played in a conference and they're playing teams like that are very competitive, like they do in the SEC, ACC, don't you think that would harden their team up? Because it seems like when they play against teams that are aggressive defensively and teams that really hit, it seems like then a lot of their weaknesses are exposed, and it's the same every year. So sometimes I think you have to get hit upside your head in a conference so it can kind of toughen your metal, if that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense. And to be honest, if you're looking at the rest of Notre Dame's schedule, I mean, they go to Purdue this weekend. Purdue's not exactly an easy win for them there.
Probably not.
Yeah, they've got Louisville in a couple of weeks. They got Stanford right after that, Georgia Tech right after that, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army, USC. I mean, Notre Dame can schedule some damn games, but it doesn't do them any good if they're not going to be able to win those games. And being in a conference, it definitely helps. And, you know, I wouldn't mind. This is the way I look at it. If you're Notre Dame, and you have to get into a Power 5 conference, into a bigger conference, just go to the Big 12. I think they would be pretty decent in the Big 12. They can compete with a lot of those teams. You know, it's a big conference, but not an SEC, not a Big Ten. Go to the Big 12. You're probably your only competition in the Big 12 right now is probably Utah, if anything. So I think Notre Dame in the Big 12 helps their case a lot more than just being an independent. That's just my thought. If you're going to a conference and you're Notre Dame, I think the Big 12 is the place to go. There's no more, Pac-12, and I certainly wouldn't go into the Big 10, or I wouldn't go into the SEC because you're just getting slaughtered in the SEC if you're Notre Dame week in and week out. So I think the Big 12 is probably the best move there. Speaking of Big 12, Colorado, man, we're gonna end the show with Colorado. That whole program was doomed when primetime got there, and it's still doomed. This past weekend, you saw Shadur Sanders walk off the field with time to go in the game, just leaving the field. At the end of the game, they interview Shadur Sanders. He throws his entire offensive line under the bus, saying, I can't remember the other guy's name from Nebraska. He never got sacked. Iowa's getting sacked left and right. Today, Deion had to come out and say, "Oh, I love my offensive line. They're doing a good job, yada, 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 yada." There's more damage control with this whole thing. And I feel like Travis Hunter is that meme where the Ferrari's parked in that, rundown home, and, you have the carport, the Ferrari or the Lamborghini's parked in there. That's how I feel about Travis Hunter. He's the Lamborghini parked in, the rundown home. And I feel bad for him. But at the same time, this entire program, Gio and Derek, it's in shambles, and they just got to get to the end of the year. They have to get to the end of the year because Shadur's gone. Everybody's gone. And I'm telling you now, I do not expect Deion to be there. He's probably going to take off. He's going to bowl.
It's not a great start, but look, they got Colorado State, which they were in a dogfight last season.
I'm not even confident they beat Colorado State.
They got Baylor the week after. If they just go on a stretch of games, Kansas State is going to be a tough game at home, but I still think it's a season they can still salvage. They're 1-1. Y'all didn't pick them to play in a bowl game, so as long as they get there, they prove me right. But no, Deion right now already is gonna be all over the place. It's just a lot of stuff coming out that he's not prepared during the games, the game plans, all this and that. At the end of the day, they need to start winning games. And their offensive line has been okay. It's better than last season, but not what I thought they would be. Their defense gets leaky. They're not great up front, particularly. But what Big 12 defense is good anyway? I mean, half these teams are giving up a ton of points. So I said Shador is a top franchise quarterback, but they got to protect him, and you got to run the football. They cannot run the ball. I mean, absolutely none. So Shador is dropping back to pass so much in these games. He's getting hit left and right, but I still think they can still make a bowl game. I mean, they're 1-1 right now. So, but the Fires.
Caleb Williams is MVP. So, I mean, we're not.
Hey,
Caleb
is 1-0, and Shador's
Caleb Williams is not 1-0. Stop. Just stop, Gio. The defense is 1-0. The defense, and you know what? Special teams is part of the defense. They scored all 24 points for the Bears. So,
well, the receiver dropped the touchdown. It would have been more points, but
I would drop a touchdown if I didn't expect the ball to be there on time. So, I mean, yeah.
Look, I think Colorado can beat Cincinnati. They can beat Texas Tech. They can beat Colorado State, Baylor, UCF. I think they can beat some of these teams. They just got to come together, man. Forget the outside noise. All that stuff they're hearing, man, just play together as a team. I think they have an opportunity here, but man, it's just every day there's a new report.
Gio, how many points they give up in the second half, though? Yeah. So if you're a coach, you're encouraged, right?
That's what I'm saying. They've put listen, I know the North Dakota State win wasn't against a team that's not a true power 4 now, I guess you could say, but their defense played well in the second half. They also played well in that second half. North Dakota State. There's something there, Derek. They just kind of put it all together and just play football. Just get your guys. Hey, you go out there and just play, man.
There you go.
Forget about all this stuff. And I get it. It's
Just
pretty distracting.
football.
Just play football. They got Warren Sapp on the D line. He's not playing, but he's coaching the D line. They got some stuff there. They just got to put it all together. Forget about all this noise crap. Just play, man.
Hey, and that's their biggest problem, man. That's an excellent point there. That's, to me, for this whole show, that's the best thing that's been said. It looked like it's like they act like they're out in Hollywood or something, Gio, like they're playing for the Lakers or something like that. And I know it's a lot of expectations, and I know they get a lot of notoriety, but I'm like you. If they just focus on the task at hand and prepare themselves, even the first interception that Shedeur threw, you can't even explain plays like that. So if they just focus on football, man, I think they're not as bad as a team as I might have thought and some other people think. They just need to focus on the task at hand, and that's playing a game of football. If they do that, I think they'll be a better team immediately.
Yeah, and also a lot of their offensive linemen, I don't know, it's just, as Derek said, as if they're in Hollywood. Dude, just block the guy in front of you. Just block the guy, the transfers they got. I don't know. It's just the mix of the team. They got something there. It's just the chemistry's off. It's just not working. Deion's got to figure this out because if not, like you said, he's probably going to be gone. And the Colorado, we could say, was a failure, but they are going to win more games than they did before Deion got there. So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, and the thing with Colorado, I mean, let me go back to the game real quick because you're saying Colorado State. I don't think they beat Colorado State. I really don't. I really, truly don't think they beat Colorado State. I got Colorado State they're winning there, but they beat Baylor. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. They beat Colorado State. They're 2-1. They go play against Baylor. Okay, I'll give them that, 3-1. UCF. They go to UCF. That is never a tough game. I'm an easy game. So that can go either way. But I'll give you that one. Okay, 4-1. They go on a little streak. That streak stops. They go 4-2 because of Kansas State. They go 4-3 because they play Arizona. Then they play Cincinnati. They're going to lose either the Cincinnati or Texas Tech game. One of those games they're going to lose. So that is 5 wins total on the year. Because they're not beating Utah. They're not beating Kansas in Kansas. And they're not beating Oklahoma State to end the year.
Didn't Texas Tech barely beat Abilene Christian?
They did. That's what I'm saying. They're going to lose either to Texas Tech or to Cincinnati. One of those games. Even if they beat both, that's 6 wins on the season. The win-losses record was 5.5.
Now UCF's
bowl
tough.
eligible, and they're going to get a bowl game because who doesn't want to pay to see Colorado and Deion Sanders? I mean,
it's UCF's a tough matchup because I think Gus Malzahn, the offense is pretty good. We've seen it the last 2 weeks. They're going to have to beat someone, Rudy, that they're not supposed to. They're going to have to win the games they're supposed to, and somehow, some way, they're going to have to beat a team. Could they? I don't think they could beat Kansas. Arizona's tough. They got a tough schedule. I mean, just in general. But could they beat Oklahoma State at home?
No. Just no.
Oklahoma State always tends to lose to someone they're not supposed to lose to. So,
yeah. Gio, Rudy.
Yeah.
Is Travis Hunter the best player in the country?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The best athlete in the country. Yes, he's the best athlete. It's him, and I don't really know anybody else. I would take Travis Hunter over everybody right now as far as the best player, best athlete. Yeah, it's Travis Hunter for me. There's no doubt about that. Could you imagine him on a better offense, a Georgia Bulldogs team, a Longhorns team? This kid would be. Can't even say superstar, Derek. I mean, this kid would be Heisman candidate on another team. On one of the better teams, Travis Hunter will be talked about win the Heisman candidacy easily as a Heisman candidate. There's no doubt about that. What do you think on that, Derek? What do you feel the same way about Travis Hunter?
Any team, basically any team that you put on in college that has a name at all, and you put him on the team, they become a better team. And you put him on a team like a Georgia, a Texas,
I was just about to say this,
Michigan.
Derek.
Oh man!
If he was at Georgia last season, Georgia probably beats Alabama.
He's better than Marvin Harrison to me, and I'm talking about just as a receiver. I'm not even talking about on the other side of the ball. I think he has a higher ceiling than Marvin Harrison Jr.
No doubt about that.
He's special, but the question is, Derek, what is he playing in the NFL? Because as a corner, he would be a 6'1", 6'2" corner.
Derek asked me.
Gio, he's so good on both sides of the ball. I know he's gonna have to make a choice eventually, and I'm sure it's probably gonna be on offense. But man, if you look at him in college, just going by the level of teams he's playing, man, on both sides of the ball, the guy's he's spectacular. So I'm hoping he ends up as a receiver, because if you, like I said, if you put him on any team, man, they become, I don't care what team in the country you put him on, they become a better team immediately.
And they got to continue to find ways to get him the ball. They just got to play. As I told Derek, the team's got to play. Hunter's going to play, but you just got to play the game and just play with your athletes. They had so many transfers, Derek. They got athletes there. It's just,
I know, man.
It's not gelling right now.
Is it Deion though? Is the focus on too much of, like you said, the other stuff? And every week we look around, Deion's got a new commercial. He's on a commercial with Saban. He's doing this. He's doing that. And I think it filters down to the other guys, man, because sometimes you can start being envious, and you kind of, see yourself wanting to get to that kind of lifestyle. And it could take your focus away from the actual games. And then you see last week when they beat North Dakota State, they had the big concert in the locker room after the game for beating North Dakota State. Stuff like that, man. I think sometimes you can kind of get away from being the on point. And I think that's where they are.
Yeah, and it's that, because I just think Deion, listen, he's a lightning rod. He brings attention. But on the coaching side, the managing of the team probably leaves some room to be desired. And listen, I'm not saying I know it all, but if Kirby Smart was the coach, Derek, I think this team would definitely be better.
Much more disciplined team.
I think much more disciplined team. And Kirby, I'm not sure if y'all heard his kind of historical post-game, so he's just a team, but he's just a fiery dude. And I just don't think Deion, I don't know. It's just something's missing. And listen, at the, when he was over there at the other school, it's different, right? It's a different league. The teams aren't as nearly as good. But in Colorado, now they're in the Big 12. They got a tough schedule. And, man, if they only win 2 or 3 games, if I'm Colorado, maybe you say, you know what, this is probably not worth it.
It's not. And not.
But they love the attention, though, Rudy. They love selling out. Yeah. But if you're not winning, it's like, well.
Hey, Rudy, can I switch over something real quick before we get off the air?
Yeah,
and you two guys, tell me this. If you're Cleveland, at this, there's another allegation came out.
I was going to bring that up.
I think it was yesterday about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
If you're the Cleveland Browns at this point, don't you have to look at the big picture as far as these next 3 years of his contract? He's already been paid the first 2 years. Now we're in the third year of his $230 million guarantee. Yeah. Does he make Cleveland better, or should they be trying to explore other options, man, no matter what happens with this latest allegation?
Cut him. Because of these allegations coming up. And that was the last point I was going to bring up to you guys. Gio said he looked a little lost this past weekend. Well, it's because he got hit with another allegation back from 2020.
I'm assuming he knew about it already before.
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun did not look like Deshaun, and now kind of figured out why. He got the allegation coming. So this is coming out too that this is a potential way for the Browns to get out of that contract completely. So if you have a way to null and void Deshaun's contract, you do it ASAP. You cut him, you let him go, you ride with Jameis Winston, And honestly, Dorian Thompson Robinson is not a bad quarterback. You know, he's got a lot of what young Deshaun had in Houston in him. So, you know, DTR, if you want to go just run Dorian Thompson Robinson out there, by all means, go ahead. Jameis Winston can get it done. I mean, he's not going to lead you to a Super Bowl, but he's a very capable quarterback. So if it's me, Derek, I'm cutting Deshaun the moment I have the opportunity where that contract becomes null and void because of it. There's no reason to keep him on the roster at all. He's not going to do you any more good than he is already doing. You know, he's bad this past weekend. If this allegation is going to play on his mind like it did this past weekend, like we feel like he did, then you cut the guy. The focus is gone. It's gone.
Now tell me this: if they waive him and they save that $138 million, right?
Mhm.
So if they were to waive him, is there anyone at this point that will pick up Deshaun Watson? Does another team want to bring that the whole scene? Who wants to bring that onto their roster? Is there another team that will pick him up?
That would be one New York Football Giants. To be honest, I think that would be a team that would pay.
As long as Dayball's there,
he's coaching for his job, dude. Like
at this point, I don't think he cares. From what I've seen, he's lost a lot of weight. He looks great, but
Hey Gio, if you coaching for your job, do you want to bring on the Deshaun theatrics? Bro, who wants to bring all that media, that negative attention to a team that's trying to turn the circle? I'm trying to turn the corner. I don't want to bring on a guy like that right now. First, his talent.
Yep.
His talent is not looking the same. First of all, he looks very hesitant on a lot of his passes. It's kind of like he's got the yips if you really watch him. Yeah. And so, do you want to bring no one to your roster, bring him on at $138 million, and then you have to deal with the spectacle that's going on with the media? I don't even know if I would want to touch him the way the game is set up today. He doesn't bring a lot to the table for me with the Browns. I don't see him getting much better, and I want to take that off my books. $138 million.
I think it's going to be real hard because Deshaun's probably going to take him to court. So I see this being a drag out kind of thing if they even attempt to get rid of him. I just don't understand why Cleveland, to me, was betting against themselves. There's nobody else that's going to give him a fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
And of course, at the time, it's hindsight 2020. He was a talented quarterback. Obviously, had his issues in massage parlors, whatever the case may be. But at this point, fellas, it's like, dude. At first, I'm like, okay, but how many people? Some people have come out. You're like, dude, clearly you had a problem. I hope he's not doing this now. I mean, I just can only imagine what that would get like. But for the Browns, they're in a tough spot because Nick Chubb, we don't know where we're going to see him again this season. That defense, you might waste them this season because you can't put up enough points. Cleveland right now looks like a hot mess. And Joe Flacco, you should have kept him.
Yeah,
you should have kept Joe. I think Jameis can fill in. I mean, once upon a time, by hook or crook, Jameis threw for 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 30 interceptions. So
30 for 30, the original 30 for 30.
Hey, Rudy.
Yeah.
I want to say this quickly, and I'm sorry, Gio. I'm thinking about Jalen Ramsey. Shout out to Jalen Ramsey. And this is for the young people and the parents that listen to his show. If you guys remember, y'all remember several years ago when Jalen Ramsey said they're going to have to roll out the Brinks truck?
Yeah, I remember that.
And you remember that things didn't go well after that for a while, right? And he goes to the Rams or whoever else he may have went to. And so then you talk about perseverance. Several years later, they finally roll out the Brinks truck for him. It just shows you have to be humble, man. At the time he said it wasn't meant to be. And then he's had to go through some obstacles. And through all those obstacles, he's come through with shining bright colors. And now I want to congratulate him for finally securing the bag, like he talked about several years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's had several bags, but this bag is probably more impressive, Derek, just because it's towards the later half of his career.
At this point in his career, yeah.
And normally you don't necessarily, unless you're like Von Miller, who I don't want to be mean, but stole money from the Bills. But but he gets that bag. I thought the end with the Rams wasn't particularly well, but hey, he's playing good. The Dolphins had their issues against Jacksonville pregame and on the field.
Oh yeah.
But shout out to Jalen and Tyreek Hill. He is. I'm gonna say right now, Rudy, when his career is over, the stats, the touchdowns, the yardage, he's already won a Super Bowl. His resume is.
I was gonna say, are you gonna say the best wide receiver in the game?
No, not the best, but definitely one of, if not the best, in his time or in his era of all those other good receivers that have come in during his time. Just hope he doesn't do anything like what Antonio Brown's been doing, because what Antonio Brown's been doing on X really needs to be studied. He says some funny stuff, but also some crazy stuff too.
Yeah, Antonio Brown, man. I mean, Antonio's gonna Antonio.
To me, though, if you look at Antonio Brown's stats, he's a Hall of Famer, Derek.
Oh, without question.
It's just, unfortunately, he could be out and not voted in for quite some time just because of mainly all the off the field and some of the on the field when he, took off his shirt. He called the Raiders a cracker or whatever he called them. It's just
if you go by his on-field talent, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And the guy is crazy, but I mean, just think how many crazy people, a little off balance people that have played in the history of the NFL. So that he shouldn't really be penalized for that. But we saw T.O. kind of get penalized for that, and there's been several guys. But if you just
Lawrence
talking
Taylor
talent,
was Lawrence Taylor was a little screw loose or two
but
there.
If you just go by talent, there haven't been many that have done it better. So I agree. The guy is a talent.
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Brown definitely is a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the numbers he put up. I mean, you can't argue.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's. Yeah.
I mean,
he's different.
Yeah, he
that's a perfect way to put it. He's different.
He also bought a team, Rudy, in one of those arena leagues, and then he didn't pay anybody. It's just some of the things. Why would you work with Antonio Brown is one thing, because he's been known really not to pay anybody. And then he also talks about Tom Brady's ex-wife. I don't know. And then also remember he had a fake COVID test. The things that Antonio Brown has done, he's joked around and said he has CTE.
Did you see the rapper?
Oh yeah,
Gio, did you see him rapping?
Yeah,
he got a little fame for a minute. It kind of fizzled out quickly, but yeah, he started becoming Antonio the rapper. Man, I thought that was funny, but at least he had the guts to try it, I guess.
And he also recorded Mike Tomlin's post-game interview when they were going to play the Patriots in the playoffs. It's just, I can go on, Derek. I can simply go on. He didn't pay his cook, his chef. I was like, dude, what's going on with this guy, man?
He's the John Daly of football. John McEnroe.
Probably worse.
Oh, Antonio Brown, man. You gotta love AB sometimes, man. You gotta love it. Some of the stuff he did. I think the funniest thing is when he did go shirtless in the middle of a game and just said basically F you, everybody in the organization. And
let me just talk about that incident. So I'm actually watching the game.
Yeah.
And I think they put the camera towards him, or he had said something to Tom. Saying,
he was out. I'm out.
Yeah. He said he's out.
Tried to stop him, and he was like, no, I'm out.
And he also told Tom, so you're going to keep throwing to your boy? Which was Rob Gronkowski, right? So Rob's in the game, and I guess he kept throwing to Rob. He's like, so you're going to keep throwing to your boy? And it's just ridiculous.
What about when he ran off the field, though, when he was acknowledging the fans?
Oh, yeah.
After he had taken off his shirt. Man, that was box office. So you know how sometimes people could hate you, but they love you. That was one of his box office moments when he took the shirt off and ran across the field and saluted the crowd on his way out. Only AB could do it that way.
Surprisingly, that is not the most embarrassing moment in NFL history. That so happens to be the Super Bowl loss by the Atlanta Falcons on the New England Patriots, blowing a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. That is the most embarrassing moment in NFL history.
Rudy, the most embarrassing moment in NFL is the butt fumble.
Yeah, butt fumbles there. I would say that. Also, probably the Oilers giving up that lead to Buffalo in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah,
that's got to be embarrassing. I think
they were up 30-something. When they were up 30-something points.
Yeah, I believe it was like 30-something.
It's like 38-3 or something like that.
Yeah. It was a big comeback for probably the biggest one up until this day. I know the 49ers came back against the Giants back in 2000 and something, but that Oilers 38-3, and that's like a Madden comeback or some crazy like video game type of thing.
Yeah, right.
Hey, real quick, Nicolas Cage, Rudy's playing John Madden in a biopic, which I find fascinating. I will say that Nicolas Cage has been on a bit of a hot streak in his movies. If you haven't seen Long Legs, go ahead and watch it, Rudy. Just don't watch it with your kid, okay?
I've heard of that movie. I have yet to see it though.
It's crazy.
I did see Beetlejuice Part 2.
Did you like it?
I will say I did. I went in with low expectations and I came out pretty satisfied with it. So I'll say that much on it. But yeah, definitely a movie you want to check out. But nonetheless, man, it's been a great Taco Tuesday. We went a little overboard tonight, but for tomorrow's night, we're not going to be live tomorrow night. So we'll either have a rebroadcast or we'll go during the afternoon and then we'll rebroadcast that show. So just a heads up, this show is going to be shown tomorrow morning on our network. Also, big announcement. The network's growing, guys. I can't really make announcements as to what shows are coming, but the network is growing. We're going to have a lot more shows going during the day and even in the evening. So you're not only going to get Sweep the League, you're going to get other shows as well. More on that's going to be coming out here pretty soon. So once we announce a schedule, you'll see anywhere from the entertainment news to sports news to just a lot of stuff all around. So we're just making that announcement here. That'll be myself and SOTB, as well as Derek and Gio and everybody else that's going to be involved. We'll be making these network announcements once they come out more and more. But be on the lookout for that. The best thing to do is subscribe to Sweep the League TV. Go to YouTube, search at Sweep the League TV. Be a subscriber. We got our NBA 2K coming out. We're going to have other stuff coming out as well. So we're giving away some gift cards. You do not want to miss that for any of the giveaways. But appreciate Derek and appreciate Gio for coming on tonight. Welcome back, Gio. He just took off here. So welcome back, Gio. But we will see Gio hopefully tomorrow, if not tomorrow, on Thursday. Derek, we're going to see you probably the rest of the week as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we'll be back here all week long for Sweep the League, except for tomorrow. We'll see what the schedule is for tomorrow. But for Hall of Famer Derek Gervin, for Coach Gio, who I guess he had to go to sleep because it's way past his bedtime. It is Rudy Campos Jr. Thanks, everybody, for Sweeping the League with us. Till we see you tomorrow or Thursday. We'll see you later, Knuckleheads.
Have a good night, everybody.
Hey there, sports fans. I'm Ashley, your go-to girl for all things sports here on Sweep the League. Welcome to our daily news reports where we'll be covering the latest updates from the NFL, NBA, WNBA, college sports, and more. We're thrilled to be a part of the rapidly growing Sweep the League network, bringing you fast and fresh news updates every day. Make sure to subscribe to Sweep the League TV on YouTube for even more in-depth analysis and discussions with our amazing team Monday through Friday. Huge thank you to our incredible sponsors in San Antonio for their support. We couldn't do it without you. So let's get started. I'm Ashley, and I'll be sweeping the league for you every day. Stay tuned for the latest sports news and updates.
Yeah, this for the family. Loyalty, respect, honor. You know what it is. STL music. Let's get it. We the ones, never folded on ourselves, no bluffing. Legacy we building, man, this ain't up for discussion. They wanted us to quit, but we dug in deep, motivated it to the fullest. Dreams ain't meant for sleep. On the grind 24/7, no time for rest. We making moves calculated like a math.